pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We will skip the roll call this evening, just noting that Mr. Fabry is not present. So, I would like to make an motion to amend the agenda to add item A5 under new business, discussing the Ledyard High School track and field. Seconded by Mr. Bronner. Any further questions? Comments? Okay, all in favor? Thank you. Great. So at this time, we'll open it up to requests from citizens. Just a reminder, requests from citizens are governed by bylaw 9325. That basically states that each person has up to 3 minutes to speak. Mr. Bronner will be our timekeeper this evening. At your 2-minute mark, he'll give a little wave. And at 3 minutes, you'll need to stop. And public comments are limited to a total of 30 minutes. And then the other thing I just want to point out is that during public comments, you cannot name or imply the name of an employee of the Ledyard Board of Education. So, yes, please state your name and address, even though you're wonderful to write them down. Thank you very much. So, first person, whoever wants to go first. You don't have to go in order, or you can, Jeff. Great.
Do I?
Yeah, you can come right out here. I'm sorry.
I'm Rebecca DePola. I live at 17 Inchcliffe Drive. Tonight I am here reading an email that was sent to the board on behalf of myself, my husband, and Mr. and Mrs. David Kapusta. I am here this evening to voice my concerns on behalf of my children, husband, and myself as a taxpayer, educator, and a resident of Galesbury. As an educator, I understand the sensitivity of students' personal information and the importance that all children should be educated no matter their disability. Unfortunately, the district has let down a majority of students in Mrs. Armstrong's class. Since the administration allowed one student to disrupt Mrs. Armstrong's classroom so severely on several occasions, my daughter's class was unable to gain a routine, a consistent learning groove, and reach the same benchmarks as their peers. Most educators are familiar with Harry Wong and his book, How to Be an Effective Teacher, The First Days of School, where he states, quote, "The most important thing to establish the first week of school is consistency. Students want an environment that is safe, predictable, and nurturing. There is overwhelming evidence that the first 2 to 3 weeks of school are critical in determining how well students will achieve for the remainder of the year," end quote. The first week of school for my daughter and her classmates was anything but consistent, safe, or predictable. A student in her class was demonstrating unsafe and unpredictable behaviors, so much so that the class was expected to vacate the room multiple times a day to keep them safe from this student. As a result, Mrs. Armstrong's class is now considerably behind their peers because of the senior administration's inability to formulate an appropriate plan of action. It is my understanding that Principal Westcott did try to intervene and better the situation, but the student was not removed. Given the situation, I'm sure the senior administration knew of the extreme challenges which prevailed with the student, yet they allowed too much time for the situation to escalate. I have to speed it up, so I'm going to say that in the spring the district holds screenings, and parents are asked to answer questions truthfully. I want to know, what is the district going to do to remediate the issue of violent, challenging children in regular education classrooms in the future? What is being done to ensure that my daughter and her classmates are getting the education that was promised to them? And what are you as a district doing to support our teachers who have students who are in danger to themselves and others. Just recently, we had a weather event on November 1st, and parents were not notified that the school had no power. The lack of communication seems to be a reoccurring theme among our senior administration. How do we plan to improve the plans and methods of communication going forward? Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay. Jeff, do you want to go? Yeah. Great. And while Jeff's walking up, I just want to let you know that we don't respond to you. It's not that we're not listening. It's just practice. So thank you.
Hi, I'm Jeff Jordan. I live at 20 Minute Drive in Hills Ferry. Just something that being away from prepared. Good evening. Today I address the Ledyard Board of Education regarding the administration of Ledyard Public Schools. My son is currently enrolled in kindergarten at GFS, and to say that the experience has been a rough one is putting it mildly. Today I publicly question the administration's ability to seriously consider and provide for the safety of my child. Beginning of the school year, my kindergarten-age son began coming home with detailed accounts of his classroom being cleared upwards of 6 times a day, with his quality learning time being replaced with extra recess, waiting in the hallways, and sitting in other now overcrowded classrooms, all due to the behaviors of a classmate having a hard time. No phone calls, emails, or any other form of communication for administration coming home to parents. Instead, we were left to decipher the retellings of a confused and concerned 5-year-old. One morning, he shared a story of him getting hit in the head with a book, and we received no communication. We deserve to know the day that it happened, and we deserve to know what was being done to prevent further incidents like this from occurring. Then, his teacher was injured by the same student. A brief email was sent to parents letting them know an incident occurred and students may have witnessed it. Once again, our son comes home to share what happened at recess that day, and no communication is provided. It was only when pressed that we hear that we hope the teacher is able to return soon. His teacher did what she could, but she should not have to deal with this on her own. Where is the administrative support for teachers? As of 11/4, there has been no communication made in regards to upcoming parent-teacher conferences. Reaching out to Mr. Westcott, parents are told to be patient. I think I speak for all the parents when I say that we have been patient. Parents are not the opposing team. We are all partners in providing the best education experience possible for our children, and we have a right to know what is happening in the classroom. I shudder to think of what could have happened if my son or another student had been hurt instead of his teacher, and I hope that idea scares you all as well. On Friday, November 1st, a storm left GFS with no power and no communication was sent to parents. I received 2 automated calls notifying me of a 2-hour delay and that there were leaves on the roads, but nothing was mentioned about the lack of electricity. Was there running water? Were the fire alarms still active? Did the doors lock? The fact that parents were not notified of this problem until we heard about it on an optional Facebook group means that the priority of this administration does not lie in the safety of our students, but in achieving 180 days of school attendance. The only explanation I received from Assistant Superintendent Hodgson was that they made a mistake in trusting Eversource, but our kids had a fun day. That's great, but parents should have been given a choice in the matter. This lack of communication or concern for safety is not acceptable. Our children deserve better, your teachers deserve better. We've only heard wonderful things about our child's assigned classroom teacher. However, now over 2 months into school, he has had very little interaction with her, and the future seems questionable. The actions of this administration in regards to safety and communication are irresponsible, and it is my hope that going forward, the focus will be put back where it belongs, providing a safe, welcoming environment for our children to grow and thrive. For now, I don't expect much. Thank you.
Thank you. Kelly?
So I'm Kelly Weesey. I live at 6 Ledyard Lane. I'm writing this letter with the intent of properly communicating about the situation going on in Tara Armstrong's classroom. Respectfully, I believe I have a unique understanding about the education system in Ledyard because I was born and raised here, graduated from Ledyard High, taught throughout the public school systems in Ledyard for 4 years, and am now a mom to a current student at Gales Ferry School. As you are aware, there was a terrible incident involving the student in Tara Armstrong's class, leading to Tara's current medical situation. It's been 36 consecutive days since she's been deemed unable to work. While many fellow parents and I have placed supreme trust in the administration at Gales Ferry School, we do not feel that the situation has been communicated or handled properly. I would like to start off by saying that a couple of other parents from Tara's room and I have reached out to the administration asking about about the current policy in place when it comes to handling violent students, known as the room clear method. We have not received an answer, and in connection to the policy in place, we would like to know who to contact in order to start a petition and how to change the room clear method. Having the rest of the students leave the classroom while one student is violent is a major concern for many reasons. Loss of instruction time, the effect it's having on the students, and the effect that it has on that one violent student. I started getting concerned about my daughter when she came home and told me that that her and her classmates had to leave the room 6 times in one day and wait in the hall until that violent student had calmed down. From the information that I've gathered, this is a daily occurrence and has been happening since day 1. This practice happened for 11 consecutive days. How are students able to learn in such a disruptive environment? According to other information I've gathered, said student was notorious for throwing objects. Several students were caught in the crossfire of the violent spats. After intensely studying the board's policy, I've learned that this is against board policies when no parents were notified when their kids were hurt. With how Tara's situation has been thus far, I'm worried that things will not change, and this is not acceptable for our students or for our teachers. What I would like to point out is that the student came from a supportive home environment. The student could not have controlled his behavior and he had wonderful and supportive parents. But if the district had followed their own policies, this injury may have been prevented. On the instruction page of the student handbook, it states that no issue is too small. Then why are parents not getting the proper responses from the superintendent regarding this issue? What happened to Tara was traumatic for her, as well as extremely traumatic for the students who witnessed it. It should not have gotten to this point, and if any student had thrown that rock at a student instead, it could have been much worse. We're disappointed in the lack of communication from the superintendent and other upper administration staff. The situation seems to be getting downplayed, and the severity of what happened needs to be made so it does not happen again to a teacher, to a student, or to anyone. We need to repel the room clear method as soon as possible. Other concerns I have. The experience that I've gained from working in Ledyard has led me to believe that having school on Friday, November 2nd was a danger to the safety of all students. With no power, that means no working phones, no fire system, and no locked doors. The small problem could have been catastrophic for those involved because those are functioning items that are necessary. This is another prime example that safety is a main concern. My last issue, when redistricting last year, why are the kindergarten classrooms at Gallup Hill average 17 students and average 23 at Gales Ferry students? We will not go away. We will persist this until we get justice for our teachers and our children. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, and the last one, Stacy.
I am Stacy Huff, 168 Wellhead Road, Gales Ferry. I just wanted to speak a little bit about the size of the classrooms and the lack of paraprofessional support. I have 2 children in the Gales Ferry system. One is older, 8th grade. The other one is in Mrs. McVeigh's 5th grade class. My older son is in regular education, and my younger son has special needs. I learned at the beginning of this year that my younger son was floundering in his class, and I will say that is a separate issue and is being well taken care of. But in the meantime, I learned that there was not consistent full-time para support in the classroom, and that there were other 504 and IEP plans in that room. And so I said to Mrs. McVeigh, would it be okay if I came in and helped out? She said, absolutely, anytime. So I went in to specifically help my son because he needed it in the meantime before things were remedied for him. It became very obvious to me right away that there was an extreme lack of support in the classroom. And although, as a parent, I'm not to know who has other special educational needs, it was obvious that there were other special educational needs. It's a classroom of 25 students, and no teacher can be expected to meet the needs of all of those students. That is impossible. It is obvious. It is a common sense issue. And so I implore you to get more paraprofessional support in these classrooms. I forget how large the rooms are at GFS, but I will tell you the rooms at JWL shouldn't even have that many people in them. It is hard to move around those classrooms with that many students in it. And as I was working with my own son in that class, I felt bad that I couldn't be available for more students. When my son was taken out to go to PT and OT, then I was able to work with other students, but it was grossly inadequate. So I implore you to lower the class sizes and provide paraprofessional support for these teachers who work so hard and love our children so much. And one more thing, I am related to someone very close to me who was an educator, another system far away, who had to stop teaching. And it was devastating to her because she loved her students, but she had to stop teaching for her own mental and physical health, much for these reasons. We don't want to lose our absolutely wonderful teachers. We adore them. I have adored every single one of the teachers that my sons have had in this school system. You will lose them if you don't do something. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, that's everybody that's signed up, but if you, here you go. Oh, did I miss you? Oh. Emily, thank you, sorry.
Hi, I'm Emily Karen. I live at 23 Monticello Road. I'm here to express my husband and my concerns with our daughter's recent experience in kindergarten at Gales Ferry School. Some of this information may be familiar to you because I had included board members on an email sent to the principal of GFS. I had hoped to hear from at least one of you in response to my concerns and was disappointed when I had not. In not responding to my email, I have the impression that the issue was neither discussed nor acted upon at your level. I start by reading you the mission statement of Gales Ferry School. Our school is a connected learning community where we are empowered to be respectful, responsible, kind, and safe. I am sad to say that the district failed in providing this to our child and her classmates in a timely manner. Within the first 10 days of school, my daughter and her classmates were being exposed to unsafe behaviors and unsafe language, both witnessing and hearing traumatic events. In response to these unsafe situations, the students were removed from their classroom daily, up to 3 times each day for their safety. In addition to this being a safety concern, it was also resulting in missed learning experience every day, multiple times a day. When asking our daughter how her day was at school, she would remember these disruptive situations more than anything else, which saddened us because it was taking away from her joy of learning. Now their education continues to be inconsistent. Their teacher has been absent 8 weeks due to injuries caused at the school. This is unacceptable, especially being the first weeks of kindergarten class where routines and relationships should be established, and structure, consistency, and security are needed by the students who are experiencing Gales Ferry School for the first time. We are also concerned with the imbalance of class sizes between the 2 elementary schools. Gales Ferry School has 4 kindergarten classes with 22 and 23 students. Gallup Hill School has 5 kindergarten classes with an average of 17 students in each. After the redistricting of schools, I would have hoped that these sizes would be more balanced. More than 20 students in a kindergarten classroom is not acceptable, and there should be a reasonable cap on the number of students in a kindergarten class. This could be remedied with a 5th kindergarten class at GFS. This is not the first time we as a family have dealt with such issues with kindergarten safety, miseducation, and large class sizes. Our first daughter had similar experience during her kindergarten year at Gales Ferry School. Her class size was 25, and there were consistent interruptions in education due to safety concerns in the first weeks of school. As we were new to being parents in a school community, we were not as familiar with how to advocate for our daughter and her classmates. With this being our second time experience these frustrations, we are more prepared to advocate for the students and what they deserve. Kindergarten is a very special school year, and small class size should be a priority, as well as immediate and available resources to deal with serious issues. Our 3rd child will be attending Gales Ferry School in the next few years, and we have confidence that you will remedy these issues as soon as possible, so that our 3rd child and all current and future students going through this district have a positive and safe experience. So I come here tonight to ask you, what are you doing to fix the imbalance of class sizes between elementary schools and lowering the number of students in kindergarten classes? What are you going to do to provide consistent education to our students? And what are you going to do to provide a safe school environment for our students, our teachers, and staff, and support the mission statement for our school? We would like to acknowledge our gratitude to Principal Westcott for his many efforts to alleviate this situation and his prompt responses to our emails. Also, Mrs. Post, the kindergarten classroom paraprofessional, has provided the one consistency to the students from the beginning of the school year. We greatly appreciate her and her hard work and dedication to the class. I have attached an article from the CEA website about disruptive classroom settings in our town across Connecticut and how it has become all too common of a crisis. As I look further, this is a common crisis throughout the nation. This crisis needs to be remedied, and Ledyard needs to be the leader in creating solutions and start taking action to provide a safe environment for all of our students, teachers, and staff. And please review these articles, and I hope to hear from you in the near future what your plan of action will be. Thank you.
Oh, very good. Thank you. Okay. Is there anybody else that would like to speak? No? Okay, thank you all for coming, sharing. And then we'll move on. There's no town councilor here tonight. Report of the superintendent of schools.
Okay, good evening. Because I have the mic, I did ask Principal Westcott to join us this evening so we could hear any concerns that were raised, particular to the K classroom. I will just address, balance between schools. The one challenge we have at the Gales Ferry School, and looking back at enrollment data for the last 10 years, and having discussed this with your previous principal, the number of late registrations make it particularly challenging, and that's something that Gales Ferry has faced the last few years. We saw that this year when we had 24 third graders register in the last month of the summer. And so we try to predict for that as best we can. The balancing of schools is not that simple. I did approve many families who requested to move over to the Gallup Hill School to try to eliminate some of that, and that's something we're going to have to continue to look at, and it's kind of an ongoing planning challenge we have. I have discussed how we could deal with the current K class size, and while people expressed to me a desire in lowering the class size, very few people want their class moved. And so at this point, adding another class to the K roster would mean that we would move roughly 16 to 17 kids out of a class that they've already become accustomed to. And the process of deciding who's going to move out of one class and go to another is pretty traumatic. And so then the question is, what other additional supports can we program in there? With regards to specific communication related to the kindergarten class, incidents and such, I hate saying this, but we are limited on the information that we can share specific to certain students. And honestly, I think while people know particular families, we're a small community, it's inappropriate for the Board of Education, for the administration to share specifics related to a particular child. What I have done is reviewed timelines. And those of you who are involved with special education understand there are timelines, requirements, and procedures. And from literally day one, there were pieces put in place to try to ensure a process that was appropriate and legal, and at the same time effective for children involved. And, that is always a particularly difficult position. I know Mr. Westcott has been observing that class on a regular basis. The assistant superintendent and I went in that specific classroom and spent time during a foundational lesson, a literacy lesson, and we're impressed with the delivery, as it was noted. Both the educators in that room are doing a great job, and what we're trying to do is provide some consistency during a difficult time that we're experiencing with Miss Armstrong, or what she's going through. So be supportive, provide a consistency in there the best we can in a really bad situation for sure. So I'll also note, right after the incident on Friday, we are continuing to do an after action to develop a communication protocol to provide tighter guidelines and timelines for the team to let parents know about issues and incidents that may occur. We've operated on an unwritten system, and we're documenting that now. I can't say it any other way than Friday was a miss of communication, and I know we can and will do better. Regardless of the timeline shared by Eversource, we should have provided more timely notice to our families who had children in the impacted schools. I apologize for this failure, and we will ensure that we improve and learn from this situation. And I can tell you that we took a number of critical path items from our after-action review, and we'll continue to implement those to make sure that we don't make the same mistake twice with regards to that. Move on to some other updates. We are in the budget developmental process, and we're in the second round meetings with our administrative team. Impact Day, we are collecting the surveys. Those are due on 11/8, and we are getting a great response, but we still need additional forms turned in. We had a very nice effort. Emily Rensky, new music teacher, worked and secured a donation of about 40 pre-owned woodwind and brass instruments to support our music program at the elementary level. We worked with a nonprofit in the Boston area that she was familiar with, and she worked all that out. It was a great effort, and really appreciate that. It was about a $2,000 value of surplus instruments that we were able to insert into our elementary music. Not pleasant, but I did want to remind the board that we continue to be active in ensuring residency requirements are met. We've withdrawn 10 students who are not residents of Ledyard and had not proven residency. 6 of those students were attending New London magnet schools, and the district was paying for their attendance. Solar work has started at LMS, and we're doing the final testing for solar at Gallup Hill School. Finally, we had the pianos delivered for Gallup Hill School, and we're moving the piano over to LMS. The music teachers have been waiting for that as part of the new project. Our facilities team is inspecting and preparing all the snow removal equipment as we get ready for winter. Hopefully it'll be light. We continue to experience challenges related to the 2 building projects. It consumes a significant amount of time. Last week I had a meeting with the chair of the PMBC as well as the vice president of ONG, again to discuss our concerns and to be very deliberate around an action plan with firm dates on getting some of the deficiencies resolved. I do recognize this has been a real challenge for our teachers and continue to push forward making that a priority for us. ONG has reassigned the project manager back to full-time in Ledyard to resolve the issues on the school projects, and the building committee and Mr. Palmer or Mr. Guerra have been active in pushing to make sure that the buildings are completed in appropriate manner. I think that's the extent of my update.
Okay, so question for you, the impact form. So as one of those moms that filled out the form and stuck it in the backpack, but I keep getting emails to send back my child's form. Are those generic emails that go to everybody? Can we narrow that down and say, Mrs. Calhoun, we don't have forms from you? Because I think a lot of stuff gets lost in that backpack express.
Fair.
So.
I can absolutely look into that. I
I don't
know
know
we
if there's
sent
like
a
a-
generic last week. A generic
Right.
email went out to everyone.
Okay,
And then specific emails would be generated by the school.
I mean, I would think they'd be able to drop it from Power School into Excel and do
Yeah.
like a little mail merge.
But I can find that out. I
Okay.
don't know the answer on how that's happening.
Just because those of us who've sent it in assume you have it, and perhaps you don't.
Fair enough.
Mr. Palmer?
If they do get misplaced in the Backpack Express, can the forms be reprinted?
Yes. And we have blank ones available should parents need them. And, we'll support parents in that. We've had a good return, it's just we're getting near this again. And I can see a lot of concerned parents not knowing if their form made it in the quote-unquote Backpack Express.
Right, yeah. So, okay, any other questions for Mr. Hartman? No? Okay, so moving on to our report of our Ledyard High School School Board representatives.
Okay, so next week, the LHS is having a food drive, their annual food drive for the Ledyard Food Locker. The start of winter sports is coming soon, and at the end of the month, LHS Drama Department is putting on a production Into the Woods. And again, the LHS track team is concerned whether or not they will have a place to practice in the spring.
So, do you have any information on the event that's happening Saturday morning that you could share? Or maybe Mrs. Vodish does?
It's an Into the Woods character breakfast that you're probably referring to.
That could be it.
Is it
'cause I heard-
Is it at Applebee's?
I don't know, does anyone?
It is at Applebee's. I believe the cast will be in costume. It's a fundraiser for the drama club.
Great. And I think I saw a post today that if you had younger children that maybe couldn't sit through the whole high school production, that this would be a really great way to introduce them to the drum department. So, okay. Any other questions for Ms. Jewell?
really a question for Mrs. Gioli, but Miss Gioli. Just a follow-up, but I know winter sports met today, and the winter track team was still told they don't know where they'll be practicing, and practices start December 5th. So I know that communications have happened with coaches, or at least I was informed by Mr. Hartling that they were happening with Mrs. Fagan and with the coaches. The coaches seem to still be unclear, or at least are communicating to the students that there's some confusion about where they will be practicing starting on the 5th of December.
Okay. Well, the good news is it's almost a month away.
Right?
So,
I mean, I'm happy to address that.
yeah, do you have information?
No,
on
I
that?
was just, so I know Mr. Bunicor is looking for additional spaces to secure for students, so he's actively working on it. Ms. Fagan and Mr. Bunicor and I spoke about that today. As of today, or actually as of 2 weeks ago, I let Mr. Bunicor know that that track is not to be used under any circumstances. During our evaluation, the track is deemed not safe. It has huge buckles in it, and I'm not going to permit students to continue to run on it. So he is working actively to find alternate practice spaces and even thinking out for spring. We obviously have to resolve the issue with the track. Not to mention there's runoff lanes and all sorts of things that are not up to current expectations or specifications. So to allow our students to continue to practice on that would be really unethical now that it's been brought to our attention. So we actually had the engineer come and point out all the deficiencies. So, and I know you know that from the kids.
Right, and I would just hope that there's money somewhere for us to bus the students elsewhere. They practice 5 days a week. Saturday being, parents' responsibility to get them where they need to be. But many of these students are counting on this for scholarships. And sophomore, junior, senior year, they need every opportunity to be performing at their best. So busing them to another location would be an acceptable solution. Running in the parking lot is not acceptable.
Okay. So next item up, Board of Education member comments. Mr. Bronner?
Just one, as far as winter sports goes, winter sports night is the 20th of November. So by that date, I would expect that Mr. Bunicor has this all worked out so it can be briefed to the parents during sports night. That'll be at 6 o'clock in the gym.
Very good. Any other board member comments? Ms. Spanish?
As long as I have it right. So I want to thank the parents for coming out and commenting tonight. Even though I'd seen some emails about the incidents at Gales Ferry School, I think it was very powerful to hear directly from you and to hear from so many of you the extent of the impact that it's had on your families. So thank you so much for sharing that. I think it's really important for the board to hear things like that from you early and often so that changes can be made. Because I wish I could continue to serve to be able to help make those impacts, but hopefully the rest of the board felt as strongly as I did that something needs to change, at least in the communication for the administration. And I feel like this is something we've seen last month and the month before and just repeatedly, that it's the communication that we're struggling with from the middle school about the Gettysburg trip or about the power situation on Friday. And it's really what one of the parents said of engaging the parents as partners in this education. I think maybe that's the change that needs to happen mentally, to think about, I'm not trying to explain to the parents everything that we're doing, but trying to involve them in the decision making and involve them in the education of our students. The communications that happened on Friday were, obviously have been acknowledged as being inadequate. I'm questioning the timeline a bit of some of the emails that we received, and I can talk to you separately about that. I understand, Mr. Hartling, that you were out of town on Friday, and that a lot of this fell to Mrs. Hogston, and that can be very challenging when there's typically a routine in place, and now there's some changes. I would hope that your team is empowered to be able to make those decisions without you present. And if that means access to your Twitter account, I don't know if you have that, but that's really where people go. So even if it's your personal Twitter feed, that's where people go for information. So there's another storm coming on Friday, perhaps, and I think Mr. Hartley will be out of town again, so you have another a do-over opportunity. I thought, maybe I'm mistaken, I thought there was an email that said you would be out of town this week, so.
I think that email came to, I think he wrote that last week, and it came to us Monday, so it was confusing.
Okay,
Yeah, it got delivered in our inboxes late.
okay, well, that's good that he will be out of town then. But anyhow, for future, it would be perhaps helpful to share that Twitter access so that when people go looking for information, Mrs. Hodgson or whoever's responsible for this can have the tools they need to make decisions and have communication be rapid and effective.
Great, thank you. Any other board member comments? Ms. DePalma-Erb?
So I have a couple of points. That character breakfast that you were talking about, I have the email. It's Applebee's from 8 to 10 a.m. this Saturday. Tickets are $10 and they include your food. So you can buy the tickets ahead of time through the Ledyard Music site or at the door. So make sure everybody has the right information on
Very good,
that.
thank you.
On Saturday, I had the pleasure of going up to Manchester to the middle school cross-country state championship. My 8th grader was running in that championship, and I just want to say that their new jerseys looked fantastic. The children were well behaved, they were excited, the bus service worked out very well, our coaches are dedicated and just very encouraging, and I appreciate them so much, and I'm just really proud of the students. They were well behaved and they had a great time. So that was a good experience. As far as the email that did not get responded to, I believe it was Emily that brought that up. So normally the process for the board is that rather than you receiving 9 responses, our chair responds. And I'm sure that it was not his intention to overlook that email, so he will probably take an opportunity to respond to you, albeit late, but that is our normal process. So we kind of depend on one person to have a central response. So I'm sure that was an oversight that will be corrected, but thank you for letting us know that. And I just wanted to also say that it's been a pleasure for the last 2 years serving on the board again, and although I won't be continuing after the new board is sworn in this time, I hope I'll have another opportunity in the future. So, and I sincerely congratulate everybody who did one. I know you guys are going to do a great job.
So I'm not actually going to address that, but thank you for your service for 2 years, and Janice also. Okay, any other Board of Education member comments? Mrs. Snyder?
Is it working?
Yep.
Okay, good. I just want to say quickly, thank you to Kate and Janice. One of the things that I learned that I didn't know before as a parent and then as a Board of Ed member is that it's really important to ask questions if you don't understand. And so I appreciate your example, both of you, and hope you'll both stick around. But I did want to say, part of this whole running for Board of Ed, one of the things that I was able to do that I had never been able to do before was to interact with parents, not just as another parent. And I found out things in this process that I didn't know as a parent. And so I really wanted to encourage. It sounds like a lot of you who came with concerns tonight did send emails, but some of the parents that I've talked to in the process of campaigning did not realize how to get in touch with the Board of Education, what the board's responsibilities really are. And so I just wanted to really encourage everyone. We have the Board of Ed portal is really neat. It's really intuitive. If you go to the Ledyard.net site, the public school site, you'll see that there's a tab for it. So if you have never checked that out before, you should. And I agree wholeheartedly with what Janice is saying. You know, if you have concerns, send us an email. There's no way for us, I know a lot of times, sometimes what happens is comments are posted on Facebook, and some of us are on Facebook, but in some ways that's not necessarily the right area for us to respond to those things. And so if you take your concerns to an email or like all of you did showing up tonight to bring your concerns, that's really the best way to make the changes that you want to make. So thank you all for coming. And I'm hoping, thank you for your votes, and I'm hoping to get to honor those votes by serving you.
Very good, thank you. Any other board member comments?
One more, going back to congratulating our students. On Saturday at 3 o'clock in Waterford, if you want to come check out our 12 and under football team. We'll be playing the Super Bowl against New London. So come on out and encourage them.
Very good. Back to you.
You gotta go support the Ledyard girls soccer team. The high school team is playing in Waterford, right?
We're playing Montville at Waterford.
Montville at Waterford at 4:30 on Thursday. Are you playing teams? Are you in it? So go support Annie and the girls. And this is the championship match, right? So, awesome girls.
Okay, anyone else? Mr. Munger. I love that everybody's so chatty tonight.
I don't talk a lot, I listen a lot, so I can get things in here and make a good decision. I just want to back up what Crystal said, Crystal Snyder. When I was on the poles outside in that beautiful weather I did over 8 hours that day. And the reason I kept coming back is because a lot of people would come over and talk to us. And again, I won't say what this person was or what the person did, but the person was afraid to say something is what she was saying. So I mentioned to her, I said, we're on the board, we have to make decisions based on the information we get. And why would you be afraid to tell me the information? Because if you don't, we're not going to be able to make the right decisions, because we can only base it on what the information is. I won't go into reasons why she was maybe nervous, but we don't bite. We all volunteer to come here, put a lot of time in, and we want to make sure we make the right decisions, but we can't do it without the help of the teachers, the parents especially, and even the students. I got 2 grandkids in the system. I watch them play soccer. I listen to the parents talk. Some of it I close out, when they're upset, but other than that, please feel free to give us constructive information so we can come up. You may not always agree with the decisions, I'll tell you right now, because just like the principal the other day on that decision with cutting the Gettysburg trip, you're going to upset some people and you're going to please some people. But as long as we have the most information, we'll try to do what's best for the kids first, not necessarily us parents and grandparents in my case. So please feel free to keep coming and make sure we get all that information.
Great, thank you. Anybody else? No? Okay. So let's move on to, lost track. Committee and liaison reports, starting with facilities and PMPC.
Okay, so in regard to our school projects, our last meeting, we had a lot of discussion regarding challenges. As Mr. Hartling mentioned, we are making some progress in the right direction on our punch list items, so that's a good thing. I did want to let people know that at the middle school, the new bleacher system is set to be delivered at the end of this week. We are hoping to be able to have those installed starting November 27th. That's right before Thanksgiving. We don't have school, so that would be a good time. So hopefully those will be done soon. There's also going to be some additional changing space added to the middle school girls' locker room. So expect those changes coming soon. And I know I keep talking about the treads on the stairwells, but we are getting brand new treads. So they're going to rip out the ones that are there that have been failing and stop this piecemeal replacement. They have a whole new type of tread that is going to be going in. It's one piece. It's the tread and the landing all in one piece, and they're we've heard good things, so we're hoping that that will be a successful swap out. And then in regard to our facilities meeting earlier this evening, we discussed some improvements to fencing around the playground at Gallup Hill School, and we'll be going out to bid for the asbestos abatement at the Ledyard High School tunnel. Some of you may remember that was slated for last year. Our bids came in way too high. So we're setting out the bids a bit earlier this year in hopes that we'll get better pricing and hope to do that project in January. And we've got some plans for summer work at the high school. We're going to do another set of bathrooms, more classroom upgrades. That's kind of the refresh that we do where the ceiling tiles get replaced and paint, and they do a refresh. And one exciting project that's coming up on the Gales Ferry side is a replacement of the flooring in the hallway of Gales Ferry School, and we'll talk about that later in the agenda. But I'm excited that that's going to be addressed. I think it's time.
Great. Any questions for facilities or PMBC? No? I actually had 2 questions for you. One, so you know I also love talking about the stairs and the treads because I walk them every single day. Glad that we're trying a different product. Curious about the color because, as I've been saying since the beginning, the light blue on the floor of an elementary school or really any building, are they still going to be light blue? Because it just always looks dirty. So just kind of...
The color was not part of our discussion at our meeting on Monday, but I can certainly email the committee and see if that option has been discussed.
And are they doing the front stairs, like all, what is there, 3 stairwells now?
So
4
they're hoping
stairwells?
to do it over the holiday break. There's a 6 to 8 week lead time on ordering the treads. So if they do get ordered and come in as expected, they could knock it out over the holiday break.
But they're doing all 4?
They're doing all of them, all
of them.
stairs at both buildings.
Oh, at both buildings,
Correct.
okay.
So if they get them in time and everything goes as planned, they could all be done over the holiday break in one shot. If not, we'll have to, obviously make some adjustments. But they're going to completely scrape them out, put in the new ones. They might, with adhesive.
Okay.
Assuming there's not an upcharge, you certainly could change it to navy and not have a color flash.
Right, if they haven't already been ordered, if we could.
Right.
I just think, they're going to be there the next 20 or 30 years. We should try to make them look
Mr. Donaldson is here and has heard your feedback.
great. And then the other question, I was at the middle school for the choral class, and the subject of risers came up. Were risers part of the building package, the FFE, or not? Or what's the status of risers at the middle school?
So I've been talking to the music teacher quite regularly. She's been great about sending me updates. There's 2 major pieces that we're waiting on for her. The risers are ordered, so
Okay.
we were waiting for the final specification. We believe there was there were 2 sets intended. One got ordered, so the second one is ordered. We know that she needs that, so she has one in the auditorium, one in the classroom, and moving back and forth.
Oh,
And then the other thing we're waiting on for her is, and the drawings are done, is the installation of additional electrical outlets so she can power her keyboards. So those were 2 big misses in that room that have been hanging for a while, and Mr. Donaldson's working through that. So it was the same thing with the pianos. However, that in the FF&E missed, and we just keep kind of following up to make it happen for.
okay. But it still gets rolled into the building
Yes.
project, so it's covered.
Yeah.
Okay, great. Okay, any other questions for facilities? PMC? No? Okay.
I appreciate it. We've been talking about risers. I just knew that you would articulate that whole thing better, so thank you for the assist.
Very good. Mr. Bronner, finance and negotiations, please.
So finance met tonight at 5:45. We had a full agenda. Most of the items that we discussed tonight are on the agenda here later tonight. There will be an update on the 2019-2020 forecast. The important things is we'll discuss budget transfers here later tonight. These are simply cleanups of accounts as we go through and try to line up the budgets now where we have items that used to be a Ledyard Center school now and things like that that have to be moved into the proper accounts. So we have those transfers on the agenda tonight. We also have a draft timeline for the 2020-2021 budget. Yes, the budget is really here now that we have a draft timeline. We'll review that here tonight with the board, and then there'll be an update for that in December, which will also reflect any of the new board schedules for the next year to make sure that the workshops and everything line up with the board agendas. We also had a review of the audit status, which Ms. Moser will go over as part of her status here tonight. And then we also did discuss the high school track and field project, and we'll have a motion recommendation to move that on as well for action. Those were the important items. And we also did vote on approving the budget for the Gales Ferry School tile repair, floor repair. So that'll be coming up for motion tonight as well for approval to go to town council.
Great. Any questions for Mr. Bronner? No? Okay, Ms. Modish, do you have a policy update?
Not particularly. Everything's on the agenda. We discussed the 4 policies that we are looking at the first reading tonight.
Great. Thank you. Any other committee liaison reports? No? Okay. Moving on, Reporter of Director of Finance and Human Capital.
Good evening, everyone. In your packet, you have the full report from our Munis, our accounting system. As of the end of October, we had expended about 19% of our fiscal year budget. We're 4 months into the fiscal year, so we are on track for a good spending record. Together, our expenditures and encumbrances are at about 94% of our 1920 fiscal year. We have encumbered everything that we know of, and we'll continue to revisit those numbers as the year goes on. Please also note that in the report, there is an over-encumbrance in the salaries line. When we did the last payroll, the encumbrances didn't lift in time to make it into your packet. So the end numbers are about $700K off. They have been fixed since. The audit wrap-up, the first leg of the audit happened a few weeks ago. That was testing processes and certain purchases and certain aspects of the business office. We are now to the second leg of the audit, which reviews the EFS, which is the Education Finance System. It used to be known as the ED-001. That reviews our year-end expenditures last year and also reviews our number of students. So we're looking at our PSIS data, which is the number of students we had in our schools as of last October, and assessing the cost per student and the kind of year-end accounting. So that is happening really towards the end of next week. We hope to have that wrapped up. So we should have finalized audit findings by early December.
Great, thank you. Any questions? No? Okay. Moving on to approval of the minutes of the Board of Education regular meeting October 16th, 2019. Did anybody?
For a second or a first?
A first would be great. Okay. Motion by Ms. Bodish to accept, seconded by Mr. Bronner. Any corrections, questions, concerns? Yes?
One of the parents that spoke, there was no last name listed. The last name is Martinez Garcia. Also, any reference to election day should be November 5th, not November 6th.
Perfect. Fantastic. So with those corrections, any others? No? Okay, all in favor of accepting the approval of the minutes from October 16th? Okay, very good. Thank you very much. Communications and correspondence. So, actually, I'm glad that Miss Karen is still here. So this month we had communication from Mr. Hosey about accessibility for wheelchairs at Gallup Hill School and the stair treads at Gallup Hill School. Responded by Mr. Fabry and Mr. Hartling. An email from Mrs. Heaney questioning about the policy 5144.4 updates that are on the agenda later. An email from Mr. Carico concerned about the FFA field trip. An email from Jackie Capusta, sorry if I'm killing your names, concerned about kindergarten class and lack of communication. Those have all been responded to, I'm sorry, by Mr. Hartling, Ms. Fagan, and then Mr. Fabry respectively. The last email was from Mrs. Kathy Williams, concerned about school safety and poor communication, which was responded to by Mr. Fabry. So Ms. Karen, if you're still here at the end of the meeting, or you touch base with me tomorrow, I have no record of your email.
It was in September.
Oh, back in September. Okay, sorry, I was looking for a recent. Okay. So I will correspond with Mr. Fabry and get back to you about that. So, okay, was there any other communications that anybody has received? No? Okay, great. Informational items, so math curriculum update.
All right, this evening we have Kim Pelletier, who's going to make her way up to the podium. She's here to share information about the work we're doing in the area of math in grades 3 through 5. Kim is our K-8 district curriculum consultant for math and science, and she also oversees the TEAMS program, which supports our new teachers. So Kim?
So if opening this up in the presentation, is it coming up?
Is it on the top?
This is a fun feeling right now. So you just press.
So, yeah, I think the internet went down at some point, but it came back, so.
Do you have the presentation?
I do.
We don't.
We don't. They do not have it. It's on the desktop that, so it should, with the desktop open. It's not. It's not there.
I did.
Okay.
I brought a paper copy. Not that I knew this was going to happen, but I did because I'm that way.
Figures.
I'll just walk around so that you all can see this. That works great. That's the teacher in me. So today I'm here. Thank you very much for having me. My name is Kim Pelletier.
Oh, yeah.
Of course. Yes.
Can't hear again.
Okay. So while Anne's getting up, my name is Kim Pelletier. I am the K-8 math and science consultant for our students and teachers in Ledyard. And I'm here to talk to you about Bridges of Education. Thank you for having me. The presentation will be there. So again, thanks for having me. We're here to talk to you about bridges in mathematics. So this first slide shows elementary curriculum revisions from 2016 all the way to 2024. And I apologize for the bottom. I know it's dark and you can't read it, but you'll see in 16-17 we started with science. Then we worked in social studies as well. Then Wilson Foundations for K-2. Right now you can see we're in the midst of Reader's Workshop. And you can see projected for next year and the following year, we'd like to start working with the program Bridges in Mathematics. I know you can't see this, I apologize. This says 3-5 first, and then K-2 will come second. So last year, a team of teachers met together, representatives in grades K through 8, many times during the year we met. And we discussed all kinds of different resources and things that we'd like to do to improve our current existing math curriculum for our district. And some members of that team even went to other school districts in our surrounding area to investigate the programs we were interested in, and we were welcomed by other districts around in our surrounding area so we could see the programs we were interested in. The 4 programs that we kept talking about were Bridges in Mathematics, Concepts for Learning Mathematics, Eureka Math, and what we currently use, which is Mind Math. After much discussion, we actually came to a meeting last
year and this past fall in September, and we'd like to recommend to the board Bridges, Bridges, which is the Math Learning Center. Our team really likes the Bridges vision because it has high student engagement. You can see the picture in the top left. The workshop model has lots of manipulative, lots of collaboration. On the bottom here, it shows something called number corners, which teachers were really excited about and interested in for our students. And then as far as for us as professionals, it has lots of a robust blog for educators, a PD library, and some intervention that we can use for our intervention and enrichment block. Here are the approximate costs for our revisions for 3-5 and K2. And then while we revise, we'll take into consideration our current report card revisions, so we'll revisit those standards that are in there and clearly in our math program, and we'll revise that as needed. And then of course, we'll incorporate our Smarter Balanced resources into our new curriculum revisions. And that's all I have for you. If you have any questions? Yeah.
Hi, can you comment on how this curriculum addresses students that need more enrichment, so at the other end of the scale?
Interestingly enough, I just attended a Bridges Consortium today with teachers from all over the state that do my job for their districts. And so what they said is that they actually take pieces of it and they actually take standards and they expand those standards within the program for their students. Does that make sense? So there's opportunities for student learning within the program that expand upon the current year with taking standards and going deeper into those standards in the current year.
And so that builds from year to year without being duplication?
Yes, Bridges also does spiral, which is nice.
Any other questions? I always feel like when you come here, we should ask lots of questions. But I know that your committee does a lot of work.
Some of the members are sitting here. Yeah, they do a lot of hard work.
Yes.
So thank you to the committee.
Tons of work. As I've said in the past, it is the hardest working committee in the district. No offense to any other committees. Well, maybe
all of them were.
Yes. So, we're good? No further questions? Okay.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you very much. Just going to stay over here because I'm not really sure what's up next. Oh, no. Okay. Very good. So, moving on to unfinished business. Ms. Vadish, will you walk us through all of those wonderful policies?
Sure, we talked about them last time, so I'll just make a motion to approve, and then we can discuss if there are any questions. So the first motion is to approve the policy 1331 on smoking, tobacco usage, and possession of marijuana. Get a second.
I'll second that. So would you like to...
Any discussion, any questions about that?
Sorry, kind of lost track there for a second.
Do you want me to put the vote still? No
Any-
discussion?
No? Okay.
Talked about it last time. So.
All in favor? Okay, 8-0. Policy 4112.5, security check and fingerprinting.
Motion? Any discussion? So you asked for the call to vote?
I do.
Okay.
Just wanted to give everybody a chance. No? Okay. So all in favor of the revisions to 4112.5? 8-0. Okay. Policy 5113, absences and truancy.
Motion to approve?
Second.
Okay, any questions or concerns about this? No? Okay, all in favor? And for the audience members, we are buzzing through these a little bit because this is the second reading. We've had a chance to ask questions. Okay, policy 5144.4, physical exercise and student discipline.
To approve?
Moved by Ms. Scottish. Second by Mr. Palmer. Okay, any questions, concerns about this one? No? Okay, all in favor? 8-0. And the last one for the second reading is 6111, school calendar. Motion by Ms. Scottish, second by Mike Bronner. Any questions or concerns about this? This was a really simple, just a clarifying to align with state law. Okay, all in favor? Okay, 8-0. Super great. On the back side, it'll take a little bit longer than that. New business. So discussion and possible action on budget transfers. Mr. Bronner.
Okay, thank you. So there's a new handout that was provided to you. It was just basically the same information that was in the advanced agenda package, but it's a little cleaner and easier to read. So as I mentioned earlier, we have 2 budget transfers tonight. The first one has to do with just adjusting budget line items to put things where they make sense. So I move that the Ledyard Board of Education approve the budget transfer in the amount of $26,925 from account 2082-213-53210 to account 208-2213-53300. Discussion. This is professional development budgets, realignments.
And to adjust the power school post.
That's the second one.
Oh, right, I thought we went through both, sorry. Okay, so, motion by Mr. Bronner, seconded by Mr. Palmer Erb. There's no further questions, comments, all in favor? 8-0. Okay, Mr. Bronner.
Okay, so the second transfer, this one is to align maintenance costs for Power School. So I move that the Ledyard Board of Education approve a budget transfer of $8,302.52 from account 212-2230-54310 to account 212-2230-53740. Basically, that's moving from maintenance to Ashland instructional technology.
Okay, any further questions, comments about this transfer? No? Okay, all in favor? Very good. Okay, Mr. Bronner, did you just want to, we don't need a motion on it, but just address the lining changes and how that's going to be?
Absolutely. On that same transfer sheet, you'll notice there's 2 line item changes at the bottom. Basically, these are terminology changes. One of the things the staff is doing is trying to align. We had different items with the same basic intent with different names. So we're trying to get them all common so that search features work and future budget lineups work as well. These don't require approval, they're administrative changes, but there are 2 here where we're trying to get words like service and repair to be consistent throughout all the line items. In the past, they were different terms for the same items, different acronyms, because we are fielding limited on what the length of those words could be. So we'll see these in finance throughout the year as staff finds more of them, but they're an information-only item for us.
Great, thank you very much. Okay, item number 2, discussion of possible action on systems and sustainability resource adoption. Mrs. Hogston.
Alrighty, in your package this evening, you have a form, a resource adoption form for our systems and sustainability course at Ledyard High School. The team has identified a textbook that aligns with the next generation science standards. The quote is for 134 books. That would include digital resources for students and for teachers. This is a semester-long course that covers 3 main topics. The team was very impressed with this book. They felt that the readability was such that the book could be used from levels 1 all the way to 3. They also were very excited about the ability that they felt that they could leverage the online resources to modify, enhance, and customize instruction to meet the different levels of students and make meaningful accommodations. So that is in front of you this evening. If you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer them.
Fantastic. So I would like to make a motion to approve the purchase of the resources recommended for the Systems and Sustainability course offered at Ledyard High School.
Second.
Second by Ms. Modish. Any questions, comments?
I just want to know, what are the students using this year?
A conglomeration of things. So they have a couple textbooks from 2004 and 2008 that they're utilizing different chapters from. So this book, which is over here, if you'd like to look at it, is getting everything together in one.
Yes.
And this is only the, I'm sorry, how many years have we been offering systems and sustainability?
I believe this
instead
is
of-
our third year,
Yeah,
and we
so
have
it's been-
not had a textbook that has aligned properly. So they've been kind of pulling resources, and so this is a good resource for them to have all in one place.
Okay, thanks.
Great. Yes, as a parent of a freshman that took that class last year, I enjoyed the teacher's creativity to come up with proper supplies. So, great. Okay, so there's a motion on the floor. If there's no further questions, all in favor? Fantastic. Go buy some textbooks. Wonderful. Okay, the next one is the budget development timeline. Mr. Bronner.
Okay, in your packet is the draft 2020-2021 budget development timeline. This is an information item. We're still working it. It is draft. If you notice, there are several TBDs in there. The first one being our joint finance meeting that we always hold with town council some point before just the end of December. It was slated to target for November, but that will end up being in December. I need to meet with Mr. Solms. And that's just to get alignment on expectations on both sides of what the budget would look like. Usually it tries to line up with the letter of intent. And we also try to get any updated information from state representatives on changes that may be coming to the formal budget. In this case, we're in between years, so if there's any changes, they'll be new to us to figure out how to accommodate. But we'll look to hold that joint meeting in December. As soon as I sync something up with Mr. Solms, I'll put that word out to the board. Of course, as Mr. Hartling stated, they've already started the budget development process within the schools and with the staff. So that's reflected here. We will have several meetings leading up to the January workshop. That date's still TBD. That is TBD because it lines up with the new board calendar, which will go into effect for the next session. So once that's worked out at our next meeting, then these dates will flow accordingly. And then we always schedule at least one more joint finance meeting sometime before the end of the budget cycle for any last minute changes or issues. Key is working with town council, so there's no surprises on either side of that interface. And we always brief them out as well. You'll see that's in here, that's a placeholder. And then the rest of the dates on the back end are all tied to the letter of intent and the formal schedule that will come out from town council. As those dates are made public, we'll continue to revise this and brief it out to the board at each meeting.
Great. Any questions for Mr. Bronner? No? Okay. Yells Ferry School hallway replacement. Ms. Palmer-Erb, would you like to get us started on this?
Absolutely. So, as discussed in facilities, we are looking to do a project to replace the flooring in the main hallway of the Yells Ferry School. There was a couple of different options that were looked at, and what has been deemed the best option is to do a polished concrete, which will be with the logo in it. So that's what we're looking to do, and it's the most cost-effective and also the most durable option. So we feel that that's the best way to go. So we'll be making a motion.
So we have a motion, because you sent it to finance.
Right.
Finance has forwarded to the board, so Mr. Bronner has the motion coming out of finance.
Okay.
So you can.
If you're set. Okay. Couldn't explain it any better. Okay. So I move that the Ledyard Board of Education request town council authorization for a not-to-exceed amount of $40,000 from the capital non-recurring account to repair the Gales Ferry School hall floors with polished concrete.
Okay, are there any further details anybody would like to add in? Any questions, comments, concerns?
So where did the $40,000? Oh, here, scroll down. So you have two quotes in here.
Right.
There's just the second one that we're considering.
Right, so we did a not to exceed because if they take up the tile, so it was listed in your packet as about 36,000. If they take up the tile and there's lines that are left, then they would need to do some additional buffing to get those lines out. And that would increase the cost a bit. So just to ensure that we're not backing ourselves into a corner, we did a not to exceed 40,000.
Ms. Fudge, the quote you're looking at has a total of 39, which includes the extra fee to
Okay.
take out those. So that's why we did the.
And then what's the $69,000 quote from
That was,
VT Tile?
that was to go forward with VCT tile.
Right,
Okay.
so we
So this
considered
is-
two options.
Okay.
And the polished concrete is not only less to install, but it's easier and less expensive to maintain.
Okay.
As part of that, we are going to go out for additional quotes on that as well. So the not to exceed number provides us cover.
Thank you. Just comment.
Sure, absolutely.
So one of the challenges is the Gales Ferry School. Over the next few years, we need to invest in there. Since the building was built, this would be the hallway replacement at 20 years. The hallway's failing in multiple places, but over the next few years, we'll be coming to the board to address classroom cleaning, carpeting, all sorts of things that have been deferred, mostly because it was the only air-conditioned building we had to use. And so all summer long, it was booked for park and rec, summer school, and that kept us really out of that building and really doing, August panic clean when those programs got out of there. So now that we have air-conditioned space at Gallup Hill, at the middle school, we'll be able to alternate programming. This project, our goal is to get it done over the Christmas break because we know this summer is still going to be a quick turnaround for our friends at Park and Rec as well as summer school, given other things that are going on in the other building. So we're trying to speed the process up and get some of that work done over the holiday break.
Just help us the age of those flooring compared to Juliet Long, which I thought was still an older building still.
Juliet Long had, for the asbestos project.
So a lot of it was kind of facelifted.
Probably about 6 years ago, so.
So the VCT in Ledyard High School, as well as Juliet Long, and actually Gallup, and Ledyard Center School had all been replaced as part of the asbestos issue from like 2011, I want to say. And then, Juliet Long's flooring is in good shape.
Many of us still think of Gales Ferry School as the new school.
The new school, yeah.
Yeah. Okay, if there's no further questions, comments, concerns, all in favor? Great. See a pretty floor. Okay, number 5, the Ledyard High School track. Kate, do you want to walk us into this? Or?
It's mostly a finance issue
Okay.
that we're discussing at this point.
So maybe we'll bop it. Do you want to discuss or do you want to?
So I'm going to cover the background and I have the issue.
Great.
So, as many of you realize, the town of Ledyard last year in the referendum allocated funds to deal with the Ledyard High School track and field. We've done, it was assigned over to the PMBC. They authorized engineering and design, went out to bid, and came in low bid over 2.4, which was significantly higher than we anticipated. When they did scope reviews with the contractors basically, the majority of that overrun was in earthwork, so the amount of material they needed to move to fix the field grade was significantly more expensive than anyone had anticipated. When they met with the contractors for that scope review, during the first bid process, the contractors brought forward several alternatives for getting the grade right, drainage, all those type of things. So the engineers went and vetted it, rebuilt the specs, and then put it back out to those same bidders. On Monday, they turned in those adjusted bids based on the new spec and method of moving the earth, all of that stuff. The low bid came in at 2.325, which exceeds the original allocation for the project. My recommendation to the board is that the board allocate $150,000, or reaffirm, their support of this project, and then allocate $150,000 out of the capital non-reoccurring, which would then go to town council for their decision on how to move forward with this project. Timeline is impacted. Our best case is that we probably get a month of earthwork in prior to late December, really the holiday break, and then they would remobilize in March, so that we would have that field in place by June graduation. That's best case scenario, assuming the town council decides to move forward with this, but it's ultimately their project. Position of the administration, and I don't take this lightly, is I can't permit kids to run on that track. The buckling, the heaving, it's not safe, and it was brought to our attention around some of the runoff distances and things like that aren't appropriate as well. And so at this point, we're closing the use of that track down. And then those of you who have used the field know the condition of the turf and the situation in the field itself. So we're pretty much in dire straits. We have a first-class athletic program with very third-rate facilities, to say the least.
Get back to 3 bids.
Yes. So, do you want to make a motion, and we can open up for discussion?
Yes, we can do that.
Great.
Okay, so I move that the Ledyard Board of Education reaffirm the significant need for the repair and renovation of the Ledyard High School track and athletic field. Furthermore, the Ledyard Board of Education requests Town Council approve $150,000 from the capital non-recurring account in support of this purpose.
Okay, further discussion. Questions?
Questions.
I love it.
So this is, would then give us $350,000 practically dollars short still. And we're hoping that the town council will give us that money out of their budget. Is that my understanding?
Out of the town, well, how the town chooses to fund it is really not.
But from their.
The only way the project moves forward is with town council action.
And what were the changes that were made, or drainage and moving of earth? Were there any even minor?
No.
You know what I'm going to ask. Were we lowering our standards at all?
No. It was really about, so my understanding of it is the original specification had them remove a lot of material and then re-backfill it in. The new kind of spec was utilizing the existing fill and changing the drainage approach. So it didn't change the quality of the field, it just, they looked at it from another spec. One of the advantages to going out when we did is we had 3 very experienced field builders. So they've seen a dozen of different applications, and so they were able to bring their expertise. The only other change, and I should note this, is we changed the fencing from vinyl to a galvanized fencing, which is, it's an aesthetic thing, but it saves us some dollars. So our goal was to cut $100,000 out, and they got us to about $35,000.
And I know this was discussed whenever we were voting on this the first time, about settling and so forth. So now, originally we were talking, well, like the whatever happens to the dirt underneath the turf, things settling after. So when we're talking about moving all the earth and putting it back,
sure.
I feel like they have more control over what's underneath and making sure that as the project settles, you're not going to get, some unevenness. So I'm just.
The change they're talking about is taking up the track material, grinding it up on site, and then using that as our base layer. So rather than taking everything out, getting new material and bringing it in, right? They would. So that saves them the transportation. If you've ever, had to have a dump truck move something, that's very expensive, and then disposing of it.
Dirt.
No, so they're.
And they changed the approach to the elevation. So it was more of a dig down, build retaining walls. This is more of a even up, if you will, so that the bleacher system, because one of the constraints we have is the bleacher system, which the town installed 10 years ago,
Yeah.
for a significant several $100,000 is being undermined from all the erosion happening. So with the new approach, they're actually going to raise those stairs and make it more ADA compliant, so it actually has some other benefits to it.
And thankfully, Mr. Tetlow, the track coach, has been in attendance at the meetings and is offering his input and has been able to, ensure that we're taking every possible detail into consideration, which has been great to have his input. One of the things was moving the discus and the shot put to a different location so that we're not causing, when we have those long days of different events, we don't have to wait for different events. We can do things simultaneously because of where the different pieces are located. So all of that input is being taken into account to give us the best possible scenario.
The only other thing I would ask is, well, I can wait till after you vote, but assuming this goes on to the town, I would like information personally about when the town would be addressing this so that students or parents that have an interest can make sure they show their support for this project.
Fair enough.
So please lead me on that.
Any further questions, comments? Mr. Russell?
So I have a numbers question. At the special meeting that we had a couple months back, the total cost estimate or allocated was $2,373,000, and the new number on here says $2,423,000. And unless I failed math, that's just a $50,000 difference.
I'm not understanding your question.
Well, I mean, it shows.
So I don't think the original, so the original total, if I'm thinking about this right, didn't have included on there the engineering and design fees. So it was just the field bid itself.
Okay.
So if you subtract the 135 plus the design fees, that's where you get the delta, maybe?
Okay, I guess. Like I said, I remember the special meeting over in the Board of Ed, and there was a total number.
Right, the total number was yeah, exactly, that's what it is. It was the construction bid cost. They had not, this sheet has the full cost because of the design and engineering. So the 135 plus the 97, the 135 minus and then adding in the 97.
And already.
Okay.
Is that your only question?
That's it.
Okay.
Just one more thing to add based on our discussion in finance, and we will be talking to town council as well on this. Should this not go forward and has to be restarted next year, the cost will go up, which is a whole other set of problems.
About $100,000.
Yeah, because cost escalations for a new year and vendors having to come back and rebid again. So there's a vested interest collectively in figuring out how to make sure we move forward now. Problems occur and we work with this team.
We're incredibly frustrated by where the bids came in. We did get 3 highly qualified bidders, 1 who we disqualified because they couldn't demonstrate the experience that we expected for the field, but all 3 of those bidders were right in the same ballpark. So, I mean, the validity of the bid based on, if you have one who's $300,000 difference, then you can start drawing questions, but they were all within a reasonable difference, yeah. So,
they all understood the job thing.
Yeah, it's frustrating. If you go out and you walk that field, and I know you've been out there, the elevation issues, the curbing, I mean, it's a mess. And when we cored that field, we discovered there was no underlayment to the track itself. So it's not shocking that due to erosion that it undermined and created all those bucking issues. It was literally tar poured on dirt rather than, the 8 inches of stone and all the other things you do. So there's so many issues there. We're just getting burned.
Kids get them fixed, get them right.
We will do it right. That's the one thing we need to do.
Okay, any further questions, comments, concerns? No? Okay, so the motion has been made and seconded, so all in favor? Great. Mr. Brewer, did you raise your hand?
Yes.
Okay. Very good. There we go. Okay, 8-0, it passes. Okay. The last 4 items of the night. First reading and discussion possible action, but I think first reading, so it's not really possible action. Ms. Fadish, will you walk us through these?
Sure.
Great.
So the first is a complete rewrite of the special education program policy proposed number 6159. This basically updates the language and brings it up to what our current practices are. Like I said, it was a complete rewrite, so it's not something we can walk through and talk about changes. There was a lot of education on my part there about the current system, so it was very educational for you. Any questions?
No questions? Okay, so this will come back in December's meeting, so if you have questions between now and then, please send them in or ask at December.
And because of the length of the policy, if there's any board members who wish to meet with myself or Ms. Davis, our Directors of Student Support, we're happy to meet with you and talk through the specific elements of the policy as well.
They attended the policy meeting, that was very helpful.
I think it's important to note that much of special education is dictated by federal law and state guidelines. So we have, there's not a lot of luxury with timelines and certain things like that. So we're very careful to make sure we're adhering to that in our policy.
Very good. Okay, policy 3410.
So this was a K policy that we did not have in our books, but it's required at this time. So this is updating the system of accounts. Very short. Any questions?
Do you think that pipe in?
Now, the implementer bill, the budget implementer required several new policies and codified several new pieces, so we're just putting those in policy. We used the CAVE as a model and tweaked it around because they tend to be a little bit more close.
Great, so this will also come back in December. 3430.
Same situation. This is a K policy that is being put into our policy manual, dictating that we report on our finances, which we do anyway, just putting it into our policy.
And it added, state law now requires us to report to town council quarterly with our projected budget versus actual.
Great. Any questions tonight about that? No? Okay. That'll also come back in December. And the last one, new policy 3432.
This is actually, I believe, the one that requires us to report to town council or the website, perhaps. But the same sort of situation. It's a K policy that's being put into our policy manual.
Great. Okay, questions, comments, concerns about 3432? No? Yep.
I don't have a comment about the actual policy. I just, for our newly elected board members who will have to vote on this at their first meeting, I just want to make sure that everyone is aware that if they want to review these, they can through the agenda packets, which is available through the board portal. So it's an 87-page document from tonight, but if you scroll down to the bottom, you'll find the items so that they can be reviewed so you can make an informed choice in December.
Very good. Thank you. Okay. So that's it. Do we want to stay here all night, or would somebody like to make a motion? Seriously, nobody, huh?
Motion to adjourn.
I know. We're just going to stay here for 2 years.
We'll make a motion and second it.
There you go. So I think Mr. Palmer Herb seconded that. Okay, all in favor? Very good. Thank you. Good night. You guys can take